Bill Silber, why is Paul Volcker, in your view, the greatest, not just the tallest, Fed chairman in history?
Well, he's actually the person who saved the Federal Reserve, which was on the verge of losing all credibility. In fact, had lost all credibility in the late 1970s.
Well, back in the 1970s, he had a transformative event, and that was helping to take the U.S. off the gold standard. Why was it such a big deal at the time?
Well, the gold standard goes back a long way. Money took its value from gold, and by the late 60s, early 70s, the United States was running out of gold. It couldn't meet its commitments. So we had to go off the gold standard, and that left managing the currency and preventing a debasement of the currency to the honor and the ability of the Federal Reserve.
And what was his role in this?
Well, he was the one who faced the facts and said, yes, President Nixon, you've got to go off the gold standard. There's no other way that the United States can meet its obligations. Go off the gold standard and then monitor inflation, keep inflation under control, and that's how we have to maintain the value of the currency.
He also faced some sober facts in the late 1970s during the so-called crisis of confidence, and he was forced to raise the Fed funds rate to extremely high levels to fight inflation. How tough a battle was this?
Well, first of all, extremely high levels is unbelievable. I mean, 20% on the federal funds rate, and that translated into close to 15% on U.S. Treasury securities. And there was no other way to break the back of inflation but to keep interest rates high, to discourage spending, and also to encourage Congress to balance the budget. They were tired of paying such high interest rates, and that forced Congress at the very end to actually enact a balanced budget amendment in 1985, which completed the job.
It also must have made things a little bit uneasy for President Reagan at the time to have a Fed chairman hike rates that high. What was his relationship like with President Reagan, as well as the other presidents he served under?
Well, under President Reagan, the relationship was ambivalent and ambiguous. After all, here was a Democrat in a Republican administration, the Democrat who was relied upon for fiscal integrity and for monetary integrity. And he almost wasn't reappointed in 1983. All the political types in the Reagan administration were against his reappointment, but Reagan knew and had a visceral hatred of inflation and knew that Paul Volcker was the only way to stop inflation. So he was reappointed and he was able to complete the job.
And after retiring, he actually came back to assist another president, President Obama, in the wake of the financial collapse. And he introduced something called the Volcker Rule, which has gotten a lot of heat in the past few years. Has he lost this battle? And was it his battle to lose?
Well, don't forget, in the 1970s, Volcker was an undersecretary of the Treasury. He then was chairman of the Federal Reserve. In the Obama administration, he had largely a ceremonial post. He was chairman of the President's Economic Recovery Advisory Board, which never existed before. So implementing the Volcker Rule, he had to rely on other people as well as his own integrity. So it's not clear that he was able to push that battle until Congress got behind him.
Finally, do you think Paul Volcker, from your conversations with him, would approve of what the current Fed chairman, Ben Bernanke, is doing with the economy and the quantitative easings and the twists? What do you think Paul Volcker is saying right now?
Well, I don't want to speak for him, and I'm sure you'll be able to get him to speak for himself. He's not shy. But I look at what he did during the 1980s and what he said the problem was in the 1970s, and that is remaining too easy for too long. And I would begin to worry. We're going to have a recovery. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be next month, but we will. And remaining too easy for too long contains the seeds of an inflation. And you can't wait until you see it in order to stop it.
This market has fewer players.
We're coming into a Monday where we're
Would
getting
enter in a new stage of tech.
It's a stock picker's market.
Welcome to the 5 dumbest things
Apple
on Wall Street.
reported earnings.